Good evening, peeps. Hope you're well as always. I'm going to make a slightly condensed video tonight. I was just listening to this song and it got me thinking about all the experiences I've had with it and my feelings toward it. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to sit down for a couple minutes and talk about this because this is definitely one of my all-time favorite songs. Let me adjust my mic here. And yeah, it's something I want to talk about. This will be a brief video, but it's just going to be one song. But the power of this song is there. I've been listening to this song for a very long time, and it hasn't aged at all. It's still just as powerful as it ever was, and I love it. And it's this Fool's Gold, Stone Roses. You've heard this. If you haven't, where have you been? I don't know where you've been the last, I don't know, 34 years. This came out in 1989, man. It's been a long time. And God, this song is good. I had my iPhone on shuffle today. I was shuffling through my library on Apple Music, and this came on, and it was just like, God damn, this song never ages. Amidst a lot of songs that never age and just sound better and better with time, like a fine wine, this is at the top of even that list. This song is just amazing. I'd love to hear your comments and your experiences with this song because I just feel like this is one song that crosses all boundaries, bridges, borders. This song represents a lot of paths and bridgeways and frontiers between different types of music, different styles, people with different tastes. This song represents a lot of that. It's just a historical track. And, we all know the Stone Roses. You don't get any more historical than them and their first album. And one of these days I'll talk about that. I have a big box set of the first album that houses all of their singles along with it. Silvertone put it out, I want to say in 1991, 92, something like that. It's like a plain black box set, but it's got like 10 or 11 records in it. It basically just has every single from the first album. And then they did a repress of the first album on double vinyl. And I recommend you pick that one up, by the way. There's been a lot of represses of that first album. But that first repress in the early 90s on double wax at pressed at 45 RPM is the best pressing I've ever heard. And you find that in the box set. I'll talk about that at some point, but tonight it's going to be Fool's Gold. This is the US edition, by the way. They pressed this on gold vinyl. Why not? It's called Fool's Gold. It's got the full version. That's what that 9:53 means. 9 minutes and 53 seconds. That's another really cool thing about this song. I know I talk about that a lot on this channel, but I just love long songs where you can just get lost in them and they keep going and they get funkier or more ambient or more powerful or more intense or whatever. But this one does all those things. I love long songs that can keep your attention. It's hard to do that. And this song at its core it's kind of minimal, but then it's so dynamic at the same time. Squire's guitar work on this is so good. He brings that dynamism to this track. The beat and the groove is pretty rhythmic and pretty repetitive, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's a good thing. But then Squire brings this really funky psychedelic guitar work to it. Ian Brown's vocals are just awesome. His humor is there, his sarcasm, which he's renowned for, I think. Some of the best lyrics ever. Go listen to I Am the Resurrection and talk to me about brilliant lyrics. I mean, Brown's a great lyricist, but from one of the greatest bands that's ever been on this earth, this is their greatest track, in my opinion. And a lot of reasons I think, the main reason I think that is because I'm a big dance guy, as you know. I love electronic music and I love dance, rhythmic music, and this is Stone Roses at their most dancey. They don't lose their own flavor at all. They don't lose the spirit of what they're about. But this is the one time where they made a club track, and God, it's good. They crush it on this. And I would be shocked if anybody watching this video or anyone who subscribes to my channel hasn't heard this. It's one of those songs where maybe if you think you haven't heard it, you probably have and you just don't know it. It's a hugely popular track, but rightfully so. This is just such a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant song. Here's the back. I still have my original shrink wrap on it and the price sticker and everything. As you can see, excuse me for my nasalness. I'm getting sick. I'm a teacher. I'm around sick, filthy little kids. What am I going to say? Still got the original price tag on it. Wow, I paid $4.94 for this back in 1989. This came out in 89, right? I could almost 1990. Okay. Did they record it? They recorded it in 89. And then it came out in 1990. Is that it? The album came out in 89. See, it's okay, this is something I should talk about. In the United States, when this album got released, I think the initial press of this did not have Fool's Gold, but then all subsequent releases of the first album had Fool's Gold on it. Fool's Gold was not on any of the European releases, I don't think. I'm talking about the initial release. Maybe later releases they put Fool's Gold on there, but later releases had Fool's Gold, not the initial release. And none of the vinyl presses had Fool's Gold. This was a single only. So in the early days, the only way you could get Fool's Gold was to buy this single. And this was the only way to get this single at all on vinyl at the time. It's been re-released a number of times. I think the album has maybe Fool's Gold hasn't. I don't know. Has it? I'm not sure. It should be. I don't quite know what the re-release schedule has been for Fool's Gold. I know it's been remixed and re-released on CD and digital versions. On vinyl, I'm not sure about what the re-release schedule has been. But here in the United States, if you bought the CD and the cassette, I think you had Fool's Gold on it. Not on the vinyl, though. I remember buying the record, as I bought most of my music. I bought the record, and I Am the Resurrection was the last song on there. And then this came out, 1990. This came out later. But then a friend of mine bought the CD, and Fool's Gold was on the CD. So, yeah. Back then they did that a lot. They put extra bonus tracks on CDs and cassette because, especially here in the American market, the US markets were really trying to steer people away from buying records because it was more expensive to make records and they could only charge a certain amount for records. CDs were much cheaper to produce and they were charging more money for those. So the record companies wanted to make more money and they were pushing everybody over to the CD market. If you bought records back in this time, it wasn't easy. You had to buy, if you wanted to have all the tracks, you had to buy the album and the 12 inches. And I didn't mind doing that. The prices ended up evening out if you bought a record in a 12 inch. You know, the CDs would cost $16, $17 back then. This is in late 80s money, like $17. You could buy an album on vinyl for $10 and then a 12 inch for $4.94, and it would even out. It would be the same price. Now these are worth more money, and they should be. I think. I'm sure, depending on the re-release schedule of this, I'm sure this is probably not cheap or easy to find nowadays. But this is an amazing song, especially the long version. You want this long version of Fool's Gold. This was originally intended, I think, Stone Roses fans. I'm a huge Stone Roses fan. I'm trying to remember the history of this, but Stone Roses fans, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the original intention was for this, What the World is Waiting For, to be the A side. But someone on the Stone Roses side, like their manager or their producer, someone they urged them to release Fool's Gold as the A side. And what they ended up doing is just doing a double A side. I think they did What the World is Waiting For and Fool's Gold. That's what each side was an A side. If you don't know what a double A side is, there was no B side. At least in Europe, they did it that way. Here in America, Fool's Gold was the A side. What the World is Waiting For is a very cool song. That's more traditional Stone Roses, jangly, up tempo guitar rock. That, I mean, that's really simplifying what Stone Roses do. I love the Stone Roses. This is just a more traditional Stone Roses track. Not my favorite from them, but have they ever produced a bad song? I mean, The Second Coming definitely has a couple of questionable songs, I guess. But from that first album, no. There's nothing short of brilliance going on with that first album. And I'm including their B-sides too. Everything they did from that period is out of this world. Phenomenal. It is one of the great classic albums of our times. People love it. They loved it then. They love it now. And it absolutely, totally deserves it. That first Stone Roses album is amazing. It still is. And we knew it back then, didn't we? When we heard it back then, we knew we were hearing something special for the ages. And it has not disappointed. It's still just as brilliant today as the day it was born. But throwing a wrench in there a little bit, this is the best song from that era, I think, and it's not on that first album. Fucking brilliant song. It's funky, it's dancey, it's Stone Roses, it's all those things all at once. Just a brilliant song. When I hear this song, it's hard for me to decipher whether or not the drums are real or if it's a sample. Does anyone know? When I hear this song, I hear Funky Drummer from James Brown, and that's not a bad thing. I love James Brown, one of my favorites, but that's what I hear. Sometimes I think it's just a straight up sample from Funky Drummer. Sometimes I think it's Rennie just doing a Funky Drummer beat. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's a fucking brilliant song. Manny's bass is just kicking you right in the gut. For me and my money, I think the only bassist in the rock realm of this era, or within a decade of this era, that's better is Jah Wobble. My two favorite bassists, Jah Wobble and Manny. Just these guys were on fire at this point, and this song kind of came out of nowhere, and it still sounds amazing. And yeah, this is on gold wax. Let me break it out of here. I'll just show it to you real quick. Man, it's hard to believe I've had this for 33 years now. It's crazy. And yeah, why wouldn't you release this on yellow goldy vinyl? There you go. And it's a good press too. They put that 10-minute version all alone on one side and they expand it, and it's a great press. I have played this record many a time in my life, and it has never disappointed. In fact, I was hearing it today and I was like, Jesus, this this song sounds better now than it ever has before. Fool's Gold, Stone Roses. Is there anything wrong with this song? I don't think so. If you think so, please leave a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear your experiences with this track. I feel like anyone who was around when this came out, or even was around in the immediate 5 years or decade after it came out, you have a very intense story to share about this, because you couldn't get away from this song for a long time. And it's still around, and I hope it never goes away. This is a very important song, too, in the fact that this was a bridge song. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a movement going on to marry rock music to dance music. Other bands that did this were other Manchester bands, like Happy Mondays. Excuse me. Happy Mondays did it very well. Right around this time, you were hearing, tracks like Hallelujah from Happy Mondays coming out, being remixed by Andy Weatherall, and all kinds of bands, Primal Scream, even the Shaman. I've talked about all these bands on this channel. But that rock dance crossover was starting to solidify itself and get popular in the lexicon of pop music. And I feel like arguably this is the best song that represented that movement. Right here, man. To hear a rock band do a track like this was big. It was huge. It was a big moment. And you might feel like you're tired of this song, but I don't know how. I can never see myself getting sick of this song. Absolutely one of my favorite songs of all time. I know I always say that. If I had to make a, you guys have asked me before if I had a Desert Island disc selection. This is in there. If if I had to have 10 tracks, 10 songs with me on a desert island, this would absolutely be in there. And that's why I wanted to do this video. Everything this song represents, to the bridging it does between two totally disparate genres, it's hard to understate the importance and the massive shift in musical popularity in a certain genre of music that this song helped. Fool's Gold. And the long version. This US edition has the short version. I don't think that's on the UK version, is it? The edit? I don't think it is. In my opinion, you don't even bother with that short version. It's this one. It's this jam right here, the 10-minute one. Yes. If you want to just get lost in a psychedelic sonic labyrinth of awesomeness, look no further than this. Stone Roses, Fool's Gold. Yes. May it live forever. Goodbye.